in the hierarchy of things in certain places, you have sort of the top man, who in this book is called Maximus. And you've got a few second in commands, and the particular one I'm going to deal with is a fellow called Secundus. But you have a doctor, for instance. He's a surgeon. He's called Scalpelus. We've got a lawyer who's called Solicitatus. And we've got a poet who's very important called Poetica. See, I did Latin in school, so I know the female will be the A, you know. But anyway, there's some of the principles in it. And a few things that are necessary before I read it is to know that in the book, apart from my needing my specs, in the book, many of these so-called luminaries who have taken over the arts and have disenfranchised others, they have at uncompromising times been stung in the buttock by a ubiquitous fly. And he stings them in the buttock. And in the passage of time, if you'll excuse the play on words, the sting, or the place of the sting, festers and festers and festers, and finally it sees them all to their end. But we're not going that far in the book. Another thing I need to explain is that the rabble are the common people here, and the rabble cannot have anything to do with the arts. And really, I was one of the rabble knocking on this door when your man arrived down to rebuke me for doing so. Another thing I need to explain, I'll just have a little note of these, because if I miss one, the central character here is a fella called Administratus. And Administratus has his eye on succession. He wants Maximus's job in the end, you see. And the whole effort this year is a big parade. Could sound familiar, totally fictitious, but a big parade on the fresh air. So they're going to do a whole big parade around the fresh air. They'll have the fresh air on top of all these standards and everything, you know. But anyway, Administratus has his eye on Maximus's job. And he has actually come to believe that he is a cross between Yeats and Joyce. He's called YJ now, because he likes to think he's a cross between Yeats and Joyce. And in fact, someone has mentioned to him that he looks very like Yeats and Joyce. And there's a picture in this that figures on the stairway, where when he looks in the picture, we'll see in the piece itself, Jeez, he begins to think, I do look like Yeats and Joyce together. And so he has rounded glasses and all that. Anyway, I'll get on with it. The last thing I'll say is this, because it's crucial, that the F word figures in this piece, of necessity. Because the F word and what it contains, that U in the F word is a great difficulty for Irish people, because we've got a very broad U, you know, and it's not quite the best to be saying it with a very broad U, you know, it kind of defines you as some sort of lesser being. So that's important. Anyway, this is the night of the reading. And it's called the night of the reading because Administratus's big gig this year is to put on this reading. And he thinks this is really going to highlight him when he puts this reading on, and this will increase his possibility of taking over from Maximus when Maximus is done. The night of the reading. Arts. What is the arts? The writer asks. A reworked form of star, he assures his audience, and then proceeds to tell how it was stolen from O'Casey. What is the stars? What is the stars? And cleverly, very cleverly, rearranged by none other than himself, this genius of a visitor to the literary circles of Slagway. A loud knock of brass on the ground floor Georgian door disturbs the listeners, impinges on the minds of those who have come to hear this phenomenon read from his latest work. He is a phenomenal reader, they think, inside their little heads, feeling in their decision that they have grown and spread and flown wings of their own, far beyond the somewhere else decided fact that, yes, he is a phenomenal writer. They have made their own decision. Yes, he is a phenomenal reader. Brass on brass again downstairs. The writer has not heard it. The writer who is reader has not heard. But his listeners cringe. It is a member of the rabble knocking on the door below, insensitive to the fact that art is taking place in this hallowed room, in this bastion of bliss, high above the level of those who do not know, those incapable of knowing. Administratus, perched importantly beside the reading reader, cocks his ears. He's like a rabbit who has felt the vibration of the approaching dog's heartbeat as it thumps against the earth. He tut-tuts, artistically of course, and pushes back the rounded glasses on his nose. The listeners watch him, thinking how much facially he looks like a cross between Yeats and Joyce. And knowing for sure now that the right man, no, in their minds they now PCally correct themselves, the right person got the job. He rises now and moves swathingly towards the door, feigning discretion in his movement, while at the same time knowing that he has done enough to draw the eyes of those gathered in the name of the arts towards him. But for an accident of birth, 2 left feet, he could have been a dancer, a great dancer. As he nears the bottom of the stairs, the lesser of his 2 left feet makes contact with the other, and he's jettisoned forward onto the hallway floor. Prostrate on the ground, he looks around him. "Fuck," he says out loud, then quickly raises himself and checks that there is no one on the stairs behind him.